Have you ever noticed that history doesn't just come back for a repeat performance? It's not a movie sequel. Instead, it feels more like a pressure system. The emotional weather changes, the temperature goes up, and suddenly the same kinds of people and the same kinds of problems get pestered all over again, just wearing different clothes and using newer gadgets. That's the real energy hanging over the year 2026. Will it be a carbon copy of 1966? Of course not. But are the same forces that made 1966 so explosive building up again right now? Think about it. 1966 was a fire horse year. It was a time of extreme ideas, of societies cracking down the middle, and of leaders who turned all that pressure into pure chaos. Is it just a coincidence that the next fire horse year is arriving when the world already feels more divided and more overheated than it has in a long, long time? 2026 won't create this instability out of thin air. It will just turn up the heat on what's already cooking. So, why does any of this matter? Because to understand what's coming, you have to look back. In 1966, things looked groovy on the surface. The Beatles were changing music with their album Revolver, and Star Trek was showing us a future where everyone got along. But that was just the wallpaper. Underneath the floorboards, the foundations of the world were starting to crack. The biggest crack started in China. The country's leader, Mao Zedong, was worried he was losing control. So, he did something clever and terrifying. He didn't just fight his enemies in private. He turned the country's youth into a weapon. He told them to destroy everything old. Old ideas, old culture, old habits. He called them the Red Guards. And in August of 1966, he stood before 1 million of them and essentially lit the fuse. What happened next was like a body turning on itself. This cultural revolution wasn't a debate. It was a firestorm. Students attacked their own teachers. Neighbors turned on neighbors. They weren't just arguing. They were on a mission to destroy anyone who wasn't with them. That's the first lesson of a fire horse year. When a leader points to an enemy and tells people that destruction is a form of progress, the fire spreads faster than anyone can control. At the very same time, America was fighting two wars. One was in the jungles of Vietnam, and the other was in its own cities. In 1966, the Vietnam War went into overdrive. The number of soldiers sent there skyrocketed, and for the first time, bombs were dropped on the major cities of Hanoi and Haiphong. It was like pouring gasoline onto a fire. Back home, the country was already tearing itself apart over civil rights and a massive rebellion against the old ways of doing things. You could feel the heat in the streets. In Chicago, a simple argument over an open fire hydrant on a hot day exploded into days of riots. In Cleveland, years of anger over how people were treated boiled over into violence that left 4 people dead. It felt like the whole system was coming apart at the seams. But fire doesn't just destroy, it also forges. 1966 wasn't only about chaos. In India, Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister, a woman taking charge in a world run by men. In America, President Johnson appointed Robert Beaver as the first ever African American in the cabinet, and the Supreme Court's Miranda decision gave us the right to remain silent, changing the balance of power between a person and the police forever. Each of these moments was its own earthquake, shaking the old world to its core. So, why bring all this up? Because the echoes of 1966 are getting louder and louder. In the Chinese zodiac, the fire horse only comes around once every 60 years. The horse is all about energy, speed, and freedom. The fire element adds passion, intensity, and a need to burn down the old to make way for the new. The last time we had this combination was 1966. The next time is 2026. Now, think about the political style we see everywhere today. It's all about disruption, about breaking the rules and attacking the system. It's a style that feels a lot like the rebellious, chaotic energy of 1966. And here's a funny thing. The person who became the face of this disruptive energy leading into this new cycle, Donald Trump, was born in 1946. He's a fire dog. The dog is loyal but stubborn, and the fire element makes it passionate and loud. It's almost like the energetic fire dog was the opening act for the main event, the revolutionary fire horse. Let's connect the methods. The Red Guards were told to attack anyone who wasn't pure enough in their thinking. Does that sound familiar? Think about today's online mobs and cancel culture, where you're either 100% with a movement or you're the enemy. The tools are different. No more pamphlets, now we have smartphones. But the game is the same. The goal isn't to win an argument, but to make the other person disappear. Look at the world stage. In 1966, the Cold War split the world into two camps, with America and the Soviet Union competing for power. They were in a furious race, even to the moon. In 1966, a Soviet probe made the first soft landing on the moon, and weeks later, another was the first to orbit it. Today, we're in another great power competition, this time between the US and China. It's fought with trade wars and technology, but the feeling is the same. The world is splitting into two teams again. Even the anxieties are echoing. In 1966, a superstition spread across Japan that women born in a fire horse year would be too headstrong and bring bad luck to their husbands. The fear was so real that the country's birth rate reportedly dropped by a shocking 25% as people actively avoided having children that year. Today, anxieties about the economy, the planet, and politics are causing birth rates to fall all over the world as people wonder if it's a good idea to bring a child into a future that feels so uncertain. So, are we trapped in a cycle, doomed to repeat the chaos? The fire horse energy isn't a prediction, it's a weather report. It tells you what kind of energy is in the air. Fire is about transformation. It can burn your house down, or it can be the heat that forges steel. It's a force, and you get to choose what to do with it. The chaos of 1966 also sparked real change. The movements for civil rights, women's liberation, and the end of the war were all born in that fire. The challenges to the old way of doing things weren't just riots. They were a demand for a better, fairer world. As we walk into 2026, we get a choice. We can feel the same intense energy building. We see it in the anger, the division, and the feeling that the old systems just aren't working. We can let that energy turn into chaos and point it at each other. Or we can decide to ride the horse. Riding the horse means using that intense energy to push for brave new ideas. It means having the courage to look at what's broken and either fix it or build something new. This is the energy that fuels breakthroughs and inspires leaders who aren't afraid to challenge a system that's failing. The lesson of 1966 is that these moments of intense pressure are not just dangerous, they are moments of incredible opportunity when the future is truly up for grabs. The pattern isn't a destiny, it's both a warning and an invitation. It warns us what happens when we let anger and division run wild, but it also invites us to grab this powerful, transformative energy and use it to make the changes we need. 1966 showed us how upheaval can lead to breakthroughs. The question for 2026 is, what will we choose to build